Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is July 2017. Yes, we are halfway through the year already. And this is the Super Organizer Show with James Lott Jr. Yes, the SOS Show with James Lott Jr. We're back. And we're ready to talk about something really interesting and helpful and useful. I have a guest. I think she's on the most. I'm not sure. I have to look at my records. There's one other person who might be rivaling her as being on the most times. I gotta look, but she may be on. This may be her appearance makes her on the most here on the SOS Show. And of course, she's the founder of the Organize 365, the Professional Organizers Think Tank. She has the Sundae Basket workshops. She has several books, including her latest, How ADHD Affects Home Organization: Understanding the Role of the 8 Key Executive Functions of the Mind. And so you know me on this show, I'm all about the mindset, and that's they have to get to the mind first before you get to anything else. And I'm so glad to have her on the show. I'm a fan of hers, of course. Miss Lisa Kelly Woodruff. Hello, Lisa.
Hey, how are you doing? Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh my God, you know I'm a fan of yours. So this is great. You come on anytime you want. So I'm very happy to have you back, you guys out there. So as you know, as I start my shows, I always do my thanks and gratitude, and I want to begin by just saying to everyone out there, I want to give everybody thanks and gratitude for buying my books. Talking about being author, I have 7 books out right now, and they're all 3 of them are fiction, nonfiction. The rest are fiction. I started the short story project, and it's all short story fiction. I have poetry books out. My latest book is called "Who Put the Funhouse Mirror in My Bathroom." It's my story of my. I know that's funny. It's my story of my weight journey of loss and gain. It's a funny little book to read. It's about what I realized. Just a few years ago, what I realized about myself and weight, and it's humorous. Actually, literally one day I was in the mirror and I said that to myself. Who put the Funhouse mirror in my bathroom? And that became the title of the book. So that's out. They're all on Amazon. But I am so humbled by people who are buying my books and are reviewing it on Amazon, and who are emailing me and talking to me and telling me how much they are enjoying them, relate to them, they read them over and over again. I have more books coming. I have a lot of stuff. I've always wanted to be a published writer, and that's something that was my number one thing ever in my entire life, and now I can say I've done that. So I want to give gratitude to that. Secondly, people who are buying my songs. I have 2 songs out. I'm working on my first album. Just to let you guys know, you could be almost 50 years old and put out your first album. Yes, that can still happen. And people are buying my songs. I Am Ready and my other song, Oh My God, Like Totally. They're both on every music platform you can think of. Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Amazon Music. I am knocking things off my bucket list because why not? Life is short, and if that's a lesson to all of you, the reason why I'm able to do all of this stuff is because I'm organized. See how that works, everybody? See how that works? I can do all. People ask me Lisa will ask me all the time, how do you do all this stuff? I go, I manage my time, and I know my limitations, but I also know my strengths. But it's all about being organized. I'm telling you, it works, it works, it works. Right, Lisa? It works.
It does. And hey, James, I want to just jump in here. Like, congratulations. And you've got a TV show,
yes,
a podcast. And you know what I noticed when I turned 40? I started Organize 365 the year I turned 40, a couple months before I turned 40. And if you're not 40 yet, or you're in your early 40s and you're like, oh my gosh, my life is over, I'm 40.
Yes.
It is just a beginning. Like, your 40s are awesome. I've heard the 50s are even better.
Yes.
If you look at people who really have lived out their calling and their dreams, that usually happens in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. So do not, if you're listening to this and you're 50, you're like, holy cow. 5 years ago, I didn't have any of this going on. I've got most of what, I don't have songs or TV show like James, but, it all happens really fast when you put your mind to it and you really step into your gifting and your calling. I'm just so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's, but the thing is, you do have multiple things going on. Like I said, you're able to write books, you're able to, give talks, you're able to have podcasts. I mean, you're doing the same thing. I mean, and you're running a company. You're right. I was 40 years old too when as you know, we have this talk before on our show, that when I started my organizing business. So it's never too late. And sometimes I'll tell you guys out there, it's better when you're older sometimes because I think I
Yes.
can appreciate it more now. I'm much more settled. For me, the kids were grown, so I mean that kind of helped a lot too. It's like they were grown. I can actually, but that's not deterrent either. You can still have kids and still have your dreams. But it's for me, there were factors that I had gone through a bunch of stuff that I was like, okay, now that's over. Now I can really come into my own. And you said calling, which is my favorite thing, and I found my calling at 40, and the last 10 years have been just amazing. And you said when you put your mind to something, this is related to organizing, to anything in your life, put your mind to something, it really does happen. Things come to your path, it happens. Opportunities come to you, they open up. Things that probably were there all along, but because your mind was cluttered, or your space was cluttered, or whatever was cluttered, you didn't see it, now you can see it clearly. Isn't that funny, Lisa? It just all of a sudden opens up, and there it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I find that I read books that I read a couple years prior. This just happened to me a couple months ago. I reread the 4-Hour Workweek.
Oh yeah, I know that book. Yes, I know that book. Yes.
And I read that when I started my entrepreneurial journey, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get all this done. I'm only gonna work 4 hours a week. Little do you know, I don't want to work 4 hours a week because I love working. Like I love working.
Same here.
So
Same here.
I'm never gonna get down to 4 hours. But I read that book, and it blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I read it again, or listened to it again. And this whole second half of the book, it was like I'd never read that book before. And I had read the book.
Right, no, right.
And I was like, my brain was not ready to absorb the second half of that book because I couldn't even comprehend the first half of the book yet. Yes. So now, if I read that book 4 years from now, I will absorb so much more from it. So even books or podcasts, I'll go back to podcasts I listened to 3 or 4 years ago and listen to them again. I'll get so much more out of them because it's where you are in life and where your mindset is. There's always more to, I love to learn. So there's always more. There's always more. We can always do more, be better. It's so much fun.
I'm with you 100% about that. And I have gone back into old podcasts and places and picked up things. I'm like, oh, now I get it. Or everything, even for me, things my grandmother said to me, that I was like, you're a crazy lady. That now I'm like, she's absolutely correct. Yeah. When she told me not all money is good money, I'm like, yeah, you're crazy. Let me find out for myself. And I've actually recently have turned down projects that didn't fit me or my brand. I never thought, Lisa, in a million years I'd turn anything down. I go to open an envelope. I was just like, whatever, sure, I'll do it. But I was like, no. Yep. Now I'm much clearer and focused on what my branding is and what I want to do. And everything overlaps in my life because it sounds like I do a lot, and I do a lot. But everything overlaps, and it's kind of they all still fit into James Lott Jr. and what's going on there. Nothing is like super far out. So when something comes to my orbit that sounds good at first, you're like, oh, that sounds good. And you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And you turn it down, and people look at you crazy. I'm like, no, I feel good. I'm glad because I know more now, and I get it. And I had a discussion with somebody else recently about, as you know, in our industry, an ongoing thing. How much do I charge? People undervalue the whole thing. 'Cause I always say on this show all the time, don't undervalue yourself. Don't undervalue yourself. And yes, I know you need clients. It takes a while to get a business off the ground, but you got to start out the gates strong when it comes to your pricing. And it's a big debate all the time. But I knew that kind of then. But now that I've had that business, I've done it. I know it's stronger now that it's true. Like I can give examples now. I can give you it's just funny how when life keeps continuing and hopefully you are growing, you do learn more. And so that's just kind of something that I'm always, and so I like when you just said that because I'm completely the same way. I'm like, the education will never stop till I'm gone. That's how I look at it. I hope to keep learning for the rest of my life. Something new. And I learn from my guests. I learn from you guys all the time. I learn stuff all the time, and I love it. I do. Because I do not know everything, folks. I know a lot of stuff, and I know what I know, but I don't know everything. I always tell my kids, I know what I know, I don't know everything. Now because you do a bunch of things too, and so first of all, I was telling you off mic the other day how much I love your books. She has this book. She also has another book called The Mindset of Organization. Take back your house one phase at a time. First of all, both your books are aesthetically pleasing. I like that.
Thank you.
In some ways, they're nice in the hand. I've learned sometimes that does make a difference. They're the right size. They're like 6x9. They're the right size books. You can put them in your purse. You can put them in your bag. You can carry them with you. They're easy to carry along, and they're very good non-complicated. I always pick up words in the show. I don't know if that's a word or not. Uncomplicated, non-complicated, whatever. They're not complicated. Lisa Kelly's a teacher, and you seriously, you came with, when I was talking to you yesterday, they're like mini lesson plans. I love that. I wrote that down yesterday. These books I read both books. They're great. They're so good. People out there, you should run and get these books, because if you have anybody they're doing any of these things, they're easy to read and to follow. She gives you instruction and tips and steps. We're gonna go more into this a little further in the show, but just like overall, these books are really good.
Oh, thank you so much. You mentioned publishing your books, and I always wanted to be a published author also. About 10 years ago, I published a children's curriculum with Tommy Nelson Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
It was so cool.
Wow.
The whole book signings and everything.
Oh, yes,
yes. And then when I did these, I self-published them through Amazon, so they're available in Kindle, paperback, or Audible.
Oh, good.
But the thing about publishing a book that is different than a podcast, a blog post, a TV episode, or any of that is that books are just so much more permanent, even if it's just a Kindle book. I mean, when you put your ideas out there in a book, that book is out there for a long time.
Yes.
And you need to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a call to action. And it takes a lot more thought and organization to get a book out there.
Yes.
And it's really what you build your whole business around is, what is it that is unique to you? What are you the thought leader on? And then putting that in a book kind of drives everything else. No one, well, maybe 5 people got rich writing books.
Right.
But the majority of people who publish books don't get rich with books. But books are taking everything that you've learned and taking the time to put that in a really easily digestible way for people to get the basis of who you are and what your thought leadership is. And then if they want to go further, then they can find all of the other things that you do, social media, all that other stuff, to follow along on the path with you. So what you decide to put in a book is really important.
That's so true, because we're not all James Patterson. Who has an empire and has books for young adults, children, Plus, I don't know how much he's writing himself, but that's another story. But we really, when you sit down, you have to outline it, has to make sense. What you're talking about, you say it's beginning, middle, and end. You have to have a point of view about it, because people are looking for things. You're right. When it comes to books, they're looking for something specifically. There's a reason, especially how-to, self-help, self-care books, whatever you want to call them, self-improvement books. They're looking for something specifically. So you have to really have a book that fits that specific need in many ways. Right?
And it has to stand on its own.
Yes.
Like, people will find the book, they have no idea who Lisa Woodruff is or that I have a podcast, and they may never go further than the book. Mm-hmm. So the book has to have enough in there that they can get to know you and the idea that you have, and then take action on it, even if they never look you up any other place. And at the same time, your raving fans who love you and digest everything that you do, there needs to be something new for them in the book that's not already in all of your podcasts and YouTube episodes and everything. So it is kind of a delicate balance, but I love it. I love it. And I look forward to my kids getting just a little bit older and then doing more speaking and traveling and book signings and things like that in the future as well.
Oh, I see that in your future already. You need to be out there talking to everybody. You need to be at conferences. You need to be at school. You need to be everywhere. I see that in your future. You need to be doing that. You're so good at it. And I like that in your books, especially in this ADHD book, How It Affects Home Organization. You do break it down, and from the title itself, affects home organization. That's something specific. But then you go even further. You say here, the 8 key executive functions of the mind. That's even more specific. I love that. It's like you read that, you go, okay, I got it. This is something that I need to look at this and find out what the 8 key functions of the mind are. Like, it's so, like, you found that. How was it to put this kind of the pre-production of this book? I mean, was it hard, or was it an idea you've had just through your practice and it came easy to you, or how was it?
It's so funny. I did not want to write this book. Here's the thing. If you struggle with ADHD or attention issues, and pretty much over the age of 40, we're all losing our working memory, which is one of the executive functions. We're all becoming more ADD as we age. So we're just all in this book.
Yeah.
And ADHD is more than the 8 executive functions, but it's a big component of an ADHD diagnosis. And the 8 executive functions are basically how the prefrontal cortex of your brain works. Do not turn off the listen, I'll make this make sense. Both of my kids are diagnosed with ADHD.
Yes, you do have this kind. Yeah, you do have a personal connection to this.
Yeah. And I was a teacher, and the kids I started teaching with in the beginning, I was put in the at-risk classroom. So I had the kids that eventually would become diagnosed with ADHD and learning disabilities, but I had them when they were younger. And so I've been around a lot of people who have ADHD. I do not. But the school that we sent our children to here in Cincinnati is one of only 8 of the highest learning disability schools in the whole country. And they're just at the cutting edge of everything that is needed for kids with ADHD and language-based learning disabilities. And so I would hear some of the, the top authors of the ADHD books or the research that's being done. I would go listen to these lecturers because our school, in conjunction with Cincinnati Children's Hospital, would bring these people in, and I would go to these. And I was a parent at the school for 8 years, so it's not like I was there just a couple of years. Like, those kids went through the school, and I learned from the faculty, and then our kids go to Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and I'm in the psychiatry and psychology department. And with the medications that my kids are on, I'm asking questions. And one of the doctors said to me, Lisa, the questions you ask us are still in the research stages. Like, you understand how these medications work with the mind better than some of the doctors around here. Like, you just have researched this so deeply. So I was nervous to write this book for a couple reasons. I had imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a this. Who am I to write a book about ADHD? But when you are a mom and you have a kid that needs anything, you will Google research and get your Google PhD to the nth degree on whatever it is your kids need. And so I can talk to the 4 leading, people who are writing the dissertations about ADHD. I understand how the brain works. So, but how does that help people with the organization? I know that when I organize people as a professional organizer in Cincinnati, the people who are diagnosed with ADHD really need that in-person, hand-holding redirection from a physical person. That's the number one thing they need. So how do you write a book or record a podcast or something like that about ADHD when you know that the number one best resource for that person is a person?
Oh, how funny. Okay.
And you can't give them a person. And so I did not want to write a book that explained the problem down to the brain level and then say, go hire a professional organizer. Because let's just be honest, the majority of people, 90% of the population, cannot afford to hire a professional organizer. It is a luxury service.
Yes.
And so here I'm gonna explain to you in detail exactly what you need, and then you don't have access. So in order to write the book, I had to figure out a way that if they could not purchase anything after the book, they could still take action on the information in the book and make organizational progress with an ADHD diagnosis. And ADHD is a spectrum disorder, which means that you can have mild ADHD or you can have debilitating ADHD to the point where you can't even function. So it's where are you on the spectrum? And so I was really nervous. I'd recorded podcasts about it, which everybody was like, oh my gosh, we want more.
Yes.
Like, oh, this has to be a book. But like I said, once it's a book, even though it's only like, $7 for the book, I think it's even cheaper to get it on Audible. It's out there with your name on it saying, this is how you do this. And here's the response to the book has been awesome. They're like, you explained my brain to me in ways that no one has ever explained my brain to me. I understand how I think now. Because I understand how I think, I'm already making changes. I've already changed things. I've given this book to my spouse. They now understand how I think. Or I've read this book. I now understand why my kids or my spouse cannot do what I'm asking them to do, and I'm asking them in different ways, or I'm helping them, and now they're able to be organized. Like, it has been it's only out a couple months, and already the stories, I'm like, oh my gosh. I was afraid to publish it because I knew that it was going to be so powerful, and I didn't know if I was ready for what's next. I don't know what's next, but I know that this book, when it really gets out there, is going to change the direction of my future, and I'm not sure how that is, so I'm not in control of it.
Oh, I love it. Sometimes you're not in control. That's great. You gotta let it happen. Here's the thing. People out there who've never published a book or put out anything to the public, all these things that we do, books, podcasts, songs, radio show, whatever we do, TV, it's being vulnerable. We're being vulnerable. When we put something out, it's like we give birth. I mean, I'm giving birth. You gave birth. You gave birth to a book, and so it's. I mean, I'm sure it's compared to giving birth to children, but it's still it's a birth of sorts, and you're putting it out to the world.
Actually, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
My children are adopted.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Those kids up.
Okay.
Well, this was a lot more work. Adoption is very, very difficult, but physically, I have not given birth.
Okay. Well, for mothers out there who might be looking at me going, but it's not much for those, but still, but giving birth to it's a book, like you said, everything you just said sounds almost hard, but it's doable. Everything's doable, and you've obviously found a way to do this. But I'm like, it does sound like you really had to put a lot of real serious thoughts into this book. And so it's like it is, but you spent all these months on it, and then you gave birth to it. You get out to the world and said, "Okay, hi, here I am in a book. Here we go."
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing I was worried about was sounding flippant or like a know-it-all to people who are really struggling with, figuring out how to get their brain to work the way they want it to work. Because here's the bottom line. I think ADHD is actually an evolution of the mind. And I didn't put that in the book. I probably should have. I've said it on every podcast interview.
Okay.
I really think that the reason we're seeing such a preponderance of ADHD is because the way our brains are moving and how we're going to need to interact with our society and all the stimulus coming at us in the next 10 years, the ADHD diagnosed people are going to have a benefit over a linear thinker like me, because when my kids walk in a room, they can take in all of it.
Yeah.
I only take in whatever I'm focusing on.
Yes.
And so currently I think we're in this transition period between being able to be like me and focused on one task and see it to completion, and being able to take in the whole of everything that's going on around you. And so I actually think it's an evolution of the mind, but we just need to understand what's going on our brain and then make our brain behave the way we want it to, not the way, not just willy-nilly doing whatever it wants.
Well, you're very on mark, because in TV, because I work in TV, as everybody knows, it's changing so fast with the advent of streaming, the advent of YouTube. Episodes are shorter.
Right.
I have a couple of podcasts that I do that are related to my TV shows. They're not longer than 9 minutes. I have one that I do, a video one that me and my co-host do, that is no longer than 3 minutes. Like, you seriously, you put it out, and it's getting thousands of views. I mean, people are just like eating it alive. It's quick. And you're right, we're evolving to a point where it's like everything has to be quick, to the point. Just like, get with it, cut to the chase. Like, just say what you want to say. Like, say what you need to say, put it out there. Images. Like, you're right, our brains are kind of, some may say devolving, but for others, we're evolving into this way where information is just much faster. And it's less time. It's like people aren't sitting and reading the paper like they used to anymore. It's get that soundbite, get that, and like I say, in TV, I'm being taught that, just because I'm a producer and stuff. We've been taught, well, James, that project's a little too long. Can you trim it for 20 minutes? That's a little too much. Can you just like cut out segment 2, 3, and 4 and just do segment 1? Like, they want it just to the point where it's just like, so people always ask me, how do I get some of these podcasts I do? I'm like, well, listen, some of them are like 9 minutes. They're not long. They don't take that much to produce.
But the planning for that takes just as long or longer than a 1-hour show, because in this show, you and I are rabbit trailing around, and people are like, oh yeah, and they're discovering it as we're discovering it, as we're talking through this whole thing.
Yes.
But if we were to distill this down to 10 minutes,
right,
we would have had this 1-hour conversation, and then bullet point it, and then go, all right, we've got 9 minutes, boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
So this is more like just a casual conversation, entertaining. You're watching the talk show, you're listening to us while you're driving, doing the dishes, whatever.
Yeah.
If you wanted to learn about the ADHD book, you're just going to go to the sales page, consume it in 1 minute, and decide if you're going to buy or not.
Exactly.
So
exactly,
really
and you're so right. And the thing is, with some of the projects that I do, I'm the showrunner, so I'm putting together an outline, a show rundown. Sometimes I have clips, and when it's a shorter span. And see, when I started this whole really short story project for my books, they're short. They're all under 1,000 words. So all the stories. So I tell people it's a little harder to write. I love writing these stories. They come to me kind of a little easier for some reason. But I have to really make sure they have a beginning, middle, and end. I have to make sure that it all makes sense. It's less words, So I don't get to have the descriptive stuff that you would have in a long novel. Like I have to make sure I get to the point, that it makes sense. You get the vision, you get it, and then move on. And it's a challenge.
I love this because when I wrote The Mindset of Organization, I wrote it as a book. I can't remember how many words that is. 35,000, 50,000?
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, something like that.
So I wrote that. That's what The Mindset of Organization is. It hit whatever that book number count is, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote how ADHD affects home organization, and it was like 15,000 or 20,000 words or something like that. I can't remember.
It's about 100-some pages. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I spent 2 months trying to figure out how to make it bigger. And finally, I was like, Lisa, think about the target audience. You have ADHD. I don't think they need a bigger book, number one. Number two, statistically, like, I think only 6% of anybody ever finishes a book.
Right.
And I'm even finding this myself. Like, I get to chapter 8 out of 10, and I stop almost all books. And I'm a finisher. Like, it bothers me that book isn't done. So I'm like, oh, they aren't even going to read the whole book anyway. And a third of the book was written by my friend Betsy, and it's all the apps and everything that you need to help you with ADHD.
Yeah.
So really, I only wrote the first 2/3 of the book. You can literally read this book in a couple of hours. I think the Audible version is only a couple of hours.
I read it.
So it's a quick read.
I read it in a couple hours. And here's what's funny.
Yeah.
So it leads to what I was going to say. Okay, so folks, when you get the book, she tells you, I love it, how to read this book. And one of the things you say is that, this is what I know, you think fast. You don't need any rosy explanations or a lot of extra words. I just love this. They just bog you down. You're saying everything I just said on the show. Get to the point. Okay, I will. So it's funny you say it because you mentioned that in the book. Because the book is not. I was going to say it's not a big book, you guys. It's actually like 100 and some pages. But you're right. About 80 of those pages are actual Lisa,
words.
And the rest are actually words, and the rest are the app stuff. Which I like the app. I like the suggestions. That's good at the end. You also say so. Part one of the book is you will address the whole host of related topics that usually come up with my ADHD clients. And then part two of the book, you will dive into each of the 6 executive functions that I have help clients and students overcome to live more organized lives. And then at the end of each chapter, of course, is a list of related organized 365 podcast episodes. So you relate it back to your podcast. It's a good podcast, you guys, to kind of continue, if you want to, continue the education. But I like that you say, I know you think fast. You're telling people, this is you guys. So it's funny you just said that and how you had to will it down. But you do, and I found that that's why books are selling because you can take it with you on a plane. You can take it with you at the beach. They're easy reads, and they're shorter books are just as viable as longer ones. I said my grandma used to always say, oh, "I love a good thick book." I mean that's fine, but 40 years later, it's different now. I mean, thick books aren't really in anymore. A few make it, but most books aren't that thick anymore. And I think it's smart for you, knowing that your clientele you're trying to give this to are ADHD people who are suffering from it and people who are related to somebody who's suffering from it, that you have a book that's not that big or that long.
Right.
That's smart.
Right.
That's totally smart to do that. So what, I mean, is there a quick way to say what like the 6 key executive functions of the mind are? Or is there not a quick way to say that, to kind of list them?
Well, the 8 executive functions of the mind are how your brain helps you process through the day. So I'm going to flip through to them. I can never remember what they are.
I'm looking. I can say them.
Working memory is remembering what they are.
Yeah, I love it. It happens. You get older. It happens. But yeah, flexible thinking, working memory, self-monitoring, task initiation. That's a good one right there. Planning and organization are 6.
Right, and then I don't talk about impulse control and emotional control because they do relate to organizing, but they're above my pay grade. So I wasn't going to get into those. So I'll just go through them real quick if that's all right. Like,
I'd love to.
Highlight.
Yeah, we can. Yes.
All right. So flexible thinking. The way I'm a functional organizer, I'm not your Pinterest organizer. We've already discussed that.
Yes, right.
So when you have little babies, and when I had little babies, I put up 2 gates, and I basically lived in our kitchen and family room area. But I'm not a cook.
Oh.
So I took some of the dishes and stuff out of the kitchen cabinets, and I turned a couple of those kitchen cabinets into a home office. So when you walked in my kitchen, it looked like a kitchen, but I literally was in that kitchen all day with those babies, and I was running a direct sales business. So I had everything I needed to run that company in that kitchen, but it looked like a kitchen.
Wow.
And if you don't have flexible thinking, you think, I need to go to my office, or I need to have a separate room, or you can't take out the china and put in binders because that's not what a kitchen is for. Like,
Right.
you just can't even think that way. So that's flexible thinking.
Got it.
Working memory is the ability to remember multiple things at the same time. So you will see this. Kids are usually diagnosed with learning disabilities in 3rd grade, and the easiest way to tell if you have a working memory issue is math word problems.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so when you're doing a math word problem, what you're doing is you are figuring out from the words what the actual physical problem is, and then doing the multi-step problem. Or algebra. It shows up a lot in algebra. I was a math teacher.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so you would not get the correct answer because you would miss a step. And when you do that, you have to remember to hold this in your mind, and you're going to subtract that, and then you're going to divide the total, and then you're going to solve for X. So often I would, as a math teacher, be able to see if there was an ADHD or a learning disability possible issue faster than the language arts teacher did, or possibly the school and the teacher, because I was looking at math, and math it's orderly, and
Yes.
there are steps. And if
Yes.
you can't go through the steps, then a lot of times it's because you have a working memory problem. And there are lots of ways to get around that. So, like, for students, you just have them have a word bank, or you have them have the directions written out for them. So working memory, some things for organization is checklists.
Oh, okay.
That's why checklists work so well for people who have working memory issues. You don't need to bog down your mind with, remembering if you fed the cat. Just put it on a checklist.
Right.
Then self-monitoring, this is where professional organizers are so great, is it's the ability to evaluate what you're doing compared to other people. So you walk into a room, it's overwhelming, you spend 4 hours in there, and you go, I didn't make any progress. You did make progress. You filled 3 black trash bags, and you did 2 loads of laundry. You made progress, but you don't see the progress you're making because you're still looking at a mess. So that's what self-monitoring is.
Okay, got it.
Task initiation is the ability to start. And that's what 30% of my audience says. They just can't even get started.
Yes.
How do you get started?
Yes.
It's so overwhelming.
Yes.
And task initiation is not just an ADHD issue. It's an issue with people who have perfectionism, who have anxiety, who have bipolar disorder, who are depressed. So task initiation affects so many people for so many different reasons. And I really dive into how do you just start? How do you just get started?
Okay.
And then planning. So planning is the ability to pick out the tasks and put them in the best order to get the best results. So if you're overwhelmed and you just go through life and you're doing whatever is on fire and in front of you next, you don't have a lot of planning. And in the planning chapter, I talk about the simplest way to get started planning, and you will not even believe how much time it saves you.
Wow.
Is literally the night before, when you're getting ready to go to bed, just get an index card or a Post-it note and write down 3 things you want to do the next day. Just start with that step, and it will grow into a very planned, productive life.
Wow.
And then the last one is organization. And organization is putting things away.
There you go.
It's not cute containers. It's not labeling everything. It's not making your house a Better Homes and Gardens house. The task of organization is putting it away. Like in preschool, I would sing the song, and everybody would
Oh, yeah.
time to clean up. Everybody do your share. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason we teach that to 3-year-olds is because you need that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And every time you go, I'll put that away later. If you don't have time to put it away now, why do you think you're going to have time to put it away?
Right.
You're never going to have more time than you have right now.
No.
You're not.
I agree.
So on occasion, yes, you got to leave things out. But at the end of the day or the end of the week, you got to suck it up and put all your own stuff away.
That's right, kids.
And that is everything has to have a home, and then everything has to go back into its home. And I'm looking around my own house as I'm doing this podcast, and trust me, there are plenty of things that aren't put away. I am a human. I am not a perfectionist. I do not have a Pinterest house. But, tomorrow night is the night when I clean up my house, and everything will be put away by the end of that night. Having a place for it and then putting it away there on a regular basis is the key to organization.
I will tell people this because I'm very my people out there. You know, I'm real. Also, I was on the road for 3.5 weeks, and living on a suitcase, and I came home back to LA, and it was 100 degrees, and I don't have air conditioning in my house.
Ooh.
So I live by the beach. We don't have air conditioning. It never got that hot when I was a kid and everything. So I have some ceiling fans, but that wasn't doing anything. So I didn't clean my house. When I got home, there was just stuff because I would sweat just getting up. So I was home for a couple days. Then I left for Vegas to go see Mariah Carey, and I just got back. So now it's not 100 degrees there. Now it's back to normal. And so today, after this podcast, it will be my cleaning and straightening day of my house. And I'm very excited. But just so you guys know, yes, for a few days now, for 3 or 4 days, my house has not been put together. I'm organized, so it's put together on some level. I know, I'm sure people might look at me and go, well, compared to what I have, I'm like, yeah, I'm an organizer. So, yeah. But there are things not in their places right now. I'm looking at my Julie Morgenstern book I was reading the other day, just sitting right here on the couch, and I'm looking at, the recycling bag sitting next to my desk. It's not in its spot. But that's because it was super hot. I literally could not generate any more movement because it was too much in my house. So yeah, we're human too, and I'm glad you said that. We're human also. But at least you and I, we have systems in place that it'll go back to your places. Like everything will go back to where it's supposed to go, and we have systems in place. It'll work. It'll work out.
So the bummer is that maintenance is not optional.
Right.
I had this false dream in my head that when everything had a place and when I was truly organized, I don't know, it'd be like us living at a hotel and I wouldn't have to do anything ever again. And that the house would magically maintain itself. You're laughing, but you thought the same thing.
I did think the same thing. No, you're right. I thought I was done. Yeah, thought I was done.
Look at the magazine. And it's gorgeous and everything right now is teal. So it's all teal and matching and labeled. And if I could just go buy all of the teal boxes, I don't even like that color. But if I could buy all of those, and if I could label them, and if I could put all my junk in there, then I will be able to sit on the couch and read a magazine like that lady is doing. Meanwhile, I don't even buy magazines anymore. But it's never going to happen. We live in houses that require maintenance and laundry that has to be done. But the more organized you are, the faster the cleanup goes.
Yes.
And the easier the maintenance is. And actually, you're not going to believe this, people, but I am so bummed out when I can clean my house in 20 minutes because I really wanted a good organizing job. There's nothing left to organize. That's why I have to go organize other people.
I love cleaning.
You get so good at creating order out of chaos that you get a high from it, and then, daggone it, the house is already clean enough.
Yes,
and
I
so
agree.
You can't do it.
I totally agree. And it's funny, you're right. My house, it won't take me long to get back into shape. I'm looking right now, going, let's clothes they put away. I mean, it won't be that long. But it's just I want people to know that, even as organizers, we aren't perfect. So we're not trying to make ourselves sound like we're above you, and that's not it at all. And if you listen to this show for the last 2.5 years, I've never been that way. We're trying to let you know that though we do have systems in place, that it makes it easier to get back to where you need to go. And that's what we're trying to get you to a place where maintenance is forever, and that's something I teach my clients too. And people would ask me, how do we retain clients? I go, well, occasionally I come in for a tune-up. They call me back, and so and a lot of organizers we get called back. I have to kind of okay, because it doesn't. I did think the same thing. I thought once everything's in order, we're done. Have a nice life. It doesn't work that way. It's always constantly, and it's not. And I don't make it sound like it's a hard thing either. It just becomes part of your life and your mindset. Once you get in the mindset, you're good to go. It's just that the shoes always go in this spot. My keys always go in this spot. I have things that always go in that spot. It's just part of my life now. So it's not anything that's like strenuous or like, oh my god, I got the keys. No, it's just that they go there because now I've been doing it for like 8 years, so now it happens, and so I think it's
exactly.
It's like that. Now, something I want to bring up too, because I can talk to you forever. I want to bring up also is your Sundae Basket.
Okay.
Which, just in case, we've talked about this on this show before a little, but I want people to know who haven't heard. And also, you're doing workshops too, aren't you, with the Sundae Basket?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm ridiculously excited about this. More excited than a human should be about organizing paper.
Okay.
So in both of my books, there's a chapter called The Sundae Basket.
Yes.
If you Google The Sundae Basket, so I just got a trademark for it.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
And my lawyer said, well, you can do the research or I'll do the research, but you should probably do the research because there are going to be a lot of Google results and you'll know who which ones are yours.
Okay.
So the first 8 pages on Google of the Sundae Basket, like there are 4 that are not me.
That's good.
I have guest posted about this.
Yeah.
I have written 30 blog posts about this, 5 podcast episodes, an ebook. It's chapters in this book. It's a virtual online class. It's now a live class. I have a Sundae Basket packet. And almost everything that you look for on the Sundae Basket is free because I just want you to have one.
Right.
So the Sundae Basket is how you corral your daily actionable papers that come in, the mail, the forms that need to be filled in, the things that need to be returned, the prescription that needs to be filled, all that stuff. So it's a very simple system. So this spring, just as a fluke, I don't know, you just wrote books because you wanted to. You started a TV show. So I was like, okay, I've done podcasts. I've done everything but sing a song about the Sundae Basket. So you can come up with that for me, James. I was like, I'll do an online class. I'll do a Zoom class. That'll be fun. I miss teaching. I wonder if people will come. So I put it out there. My first 2 classes filled up instantly. I was like, oh, this is really cool. People must need their hand held to do the Sundae Basket, and they want to do it in a class. That's awesome. So I get in a class. So Zoom is an online meeting, so I can see everybody.
Okay.
And I go through the introductions, and I recognize all the names of these people. And I'm like, so, do you have a Sundae Basket? And they all said yes. Everyone except for one had a Sundae Basket. I'm like, well, why are you here? And they're like, well, we want to do it with you. Or we've never really done it all the way through. Or I've never emptied it. Or I have it, but I'm not really sure if it works or not. And I was like, all right, well, let's get into it. So at the end, they had empty Sundae baskets, and they knew what to do, and I'd answered all their questions. I was like, okay, there is a need for people to do this together. Now, to back up, 5 years ago when I started my business, the first summer I was a professional organizer, I had paper organizing workshops at my house where people would bring laundry baskets and banker's boxes and bags of paper. And I gave them tables, and they would be like, how do I organize this paper? And I, like a teacher, would walk around, didn't matter what they brought, and I would help them organize their paper. I loved it. Mm-hmm. I wanted other professional organizers to do it. Like, it's always been my dream that there would be these workshops around the world where people could take their paper and organize it with other people in a fun setting with a professional organizer or just somebody who loves paper that could help them answer their questions. And honestly, when you're in a workshop setting, this is what I don't know how to explain to the people who are doing it, but here's what happens. Somebody holds up a piece of paper. If the person running the Sundae Basket workshop doesn't know exactly what to do with that paper, the people at the workshop do.
Oh, that's so funny. Right.
So at the first one, 3 ladies brought their kids school papers, all the pumpkin drawings or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So she had like all the pumpkin paintings in front of her. And there's just something about being around your girlfriends. They had wine. That's fine with me.
Yes.
And she's like, isn't this adorable? They're like, yep, it's adorable. Snap a picture and throw it away. And when you're with your girlfriends, you can do that.
Yes.
When you're in your house and your kids are playing in the other room and you're looking at all their pumpkin drawings and now they're 5 years older and oh my gosh, they touched a paintbrush and it had paint on it and they splattered it on this. I think I'll have to keep this forever because they were little once.
Yes.
You can't get rid of it.
Right.
But when you're around your friends, you're like, 89 pumpkin paintings. Let's pick one and move on.
Yes.
Move on. Come on. We got to get
Yes.
this project done. So it's just fun. And what the ladies in the virtual classes said, they said, this gave us the accountability. We paid you. We put it on our calendar. We knew we were going to get our Sundae basket done on this day and time. Left to our own devices, we're not doing it. So I was like, great. I had 4 ladies say, fine, we'll do live Sundae basket workshops with you too. And they became the first licensees, and now there are 12. And right now we are filling up the August licensees programs, and I hope to have 50 by September 1st, licensed Sundae Basket workshop providers.
Yay.
We're in the U.S. and Canada now. I've got a whole bunch of people in other international countries that want to do it.
That's amazing.
People are looking for, as we've gotten so digital, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of headquarters here. P&G, GE, Kroger. We've got all these big Fortune 500 companies.
Yes.
So Kroger does a lot of research. I have a lot of friends there. One of the things they're noticing, Kroger was one of the very first ones to have the click list where you could pick out what you wanted at the grocery store and drive up and get it.
Yes.
And I thought, well, this is the end of grocery stores, right? Mm-hmm. What they noticed, one of my friends told me from their research, is after 18 months, people start going back in the stores again.
Interesting.
So even though everything's going online and digital, like, and I do almost all my shopping online, I have to drag my teenager to the store to figure out what size jeans fit now.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I've got to take them into the store to smell all the body wash to figure out which flavor they want me to order because the flavor they liked before isn't there anymore.
Oh, that's right. Right.
And so even though we can organize our paper at home, we don't want to.
That's true.
And so if we can go somewhere else and be around some friends and get some of our own social needs met while doing a productive project and getting expertise from the person that is running the workshop and setting aside on the calendar this date that I am going to get this done at this time, there's a need for that. There is a need for that. And so I'm so excited. In my mind, I see where this is 5 years from now, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get other people on board with me to get us there.
Oh, my God.
I can see it. I can see it.
Yes. See, I mean, you're amazing. How about me? You're amazing. I mean, this is great. I'm so excited for you. I mean, if I was still physically organizing, I'd be on board. I'd want to do something. I mean, I want to do it because papers. People out there, you don't even realize how much organizers have to deal with papers. Paper. One of my first clients I ever had 8 years ago, it was literally he hired me to help with his mail. He had an aversion to mail. And for some reason, and he's like, I have this aversion to mail. I don't know what it is. And I mean, seriously, we'd sit down every Monday. I'd come over, and we'd go through his week's worth of mail. And sometimes there were bills, but sometimes there were checks. He was an actor. So I said, here's your residual checks from that commercial you did. Oh, my God. I'm like, so I mean, what is it? And through the course of a year with him, it took me a year to be with him. And now he does his mail. He's fine. But it took me a year. We actually psychologically, because we sat in his kitchen and we'd have coffee and we seriously kind of just like hung out, so to speak. Even though he was paying me obviously to do this, but we kind of hung out kind of setting, two guys talking. Like, so what? I mean, are you afraid of getting? And it turned out he got bad news in the mail, 2 times the kid, and it scarred him. So that's why I had aversion to mail. So we got something really serious. And once we talked that, I'm a certified life coach, so I was able to pull that out a little bit. And once we got all that kind of worked out, now he knows the root cause. We've kind of solved it. He worked through it. We solved it. Like I said, it took a year. And now I see him the other day, and he's like, oh my God, my mail's so great. I'm doing so great. My mail and my papers. It's papers. Papers.
They're like kryptonite.
They are. Oh my God. It's
so
crazy.
Are. It's like you can hold up a piece of paper and you can watch the person just melt right in front of you. Like, oh my God.
Exactly.
So here's 2 things, because I know you have professional organizers in your audience. There's 2 things I want to say.
Yes.
Number 1, not everyone can afford to have a professional organizer come to their house.
That's true.
But they can find $30 to go to a 3-hour workshop.
That's true.
And you as a professional organizer can have 6 to 10 of these people at the same workshop. You're still making $300, but they're only spending $30. And you are getting leads for in-home organizing. So I think this is a win-win-win.
Well, we call this
professional organizer.
We call this in business and coaching high-touch communication. When you have somebody in front of you, that's a client, potential client. When they're in front of you, whether it's virtual or whatever, they're in front of you though. They're your captive audience. They're getting a taste of who you are. That they may say, I like Lisa Kelly. I'm going to make sure I hire her again. I'm going to hire her next time.
Or they'll refer you to someone.
Yes.
Or all of a sudden, a tragedy will happen that involves paper, and you are the person they're going to think of. And number 2, for professional organizers, you aren't doing the organizing anymore. Neither am I. I have a team now.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yes.
And when I really look at professional organizers, they make it about 5 years doing the in-home organizing. And then they either get a team or they stop doing it.
Yes.
Paper is not exhausting physically.
No. It's not.
You can organize paper for the next 20 years because physically you're just going to sit down and organize it. And on the jobs, my girls don't like to do paper. I'm like, great, I'm doing the paper. And they're like walking out there, like all exhausted. I'm like, I'm going to go get coffee.
Right.
I've been organizing paper the whole time.
Right.
So if you are a professional organizer, this is a great way to also move as an expert into the field of paper. And as a professional organizer, you know there are only 10 different kinds of paper. A homeowner thinks they have 100 pieces of paper. That's 100 different kinds of paper. But really, paper is not as complicated as people feel like it is. It's really easy to become an expert in organizing paper very quickly.
I agree with you completely. I do. But your Sunday Basket is a great idea, and I said if I was still doing it, I would want to be a part of it because because that is literally one of the number one issues I had with most of my clients here in LA. Because we have especially in certain, I want to say for certain cities, depending on what the industry is. Like here, we have a lot of industry, it's a lot of entertainment. And it's just, and so there's so many papers that are generating contracts and press releases, and there's a lot of paper being generated that's sent out to us all the time. If you're a part of SAG-AFTRA, you get lots of stuff. You're part of banks and things. We get lots of stuff that are related to our field. It's lots of paper. It's lots of paper. And I found that with a lot of my clients when I was working with producers or directors from TV shows, it's all paper. It's old scripts. Yeah. It's things that they don't even want to save. It's the actors' sides that they made 10 copies of to give to each of the actors. Like it's
yeah, and you know what I've done a couple of times is go through all of people's divorce documents.
Yes.
They'll hire me. I do it off-site. I do it at my house.
Yeah.
But I go through all of their divorce documents, and I put them in a binder in order so they can fight for the custody of their kids. And we end up shredding, 60 to 75% because it's duplicates, and then the one king, they had the affidavit, and we didn't know, so we got another one. And then the lawyer gave you their copy, and once it's in a binder and organized, then you know that you have everything that you need. So the other thing that Sundae Basket Workshop licensees are doing is they're developing their own specialties. So my friend in Cincinnati, she is a single mom who homeschools and she's divorced. So she's going to specialize in all of those things. Somebody else is specializing in the senior year of high school. There's somebody else that's specializing in military paperwork you need to keep and preparing for a military move. Okay. There's somebody else, you would be specializing in what the TV industry needs because that's what you are in your area. So some people specialize in estates or specialize in being a caregiver or kids artwork. There are so many different ways you can specialize too. Yes. I just love paper.
I was going to say medical stuff. You just say caregiver. Oh my God! All the papers you can send from that, all the prescription papers and this paper. I'm sure the bills and oh my God.
Kids with IEPs.
Yes.
People who have cancer.
Oh my God.
And this is important paper, and it's overwhelming.
Yes, but also some of it can be whittled down, like to certain things. And also there are time limits. I knew this from when I was doing insurance. There are time limits. Some like taxes too. Another one, you want to keep them for 7 years or 5 years or 3. Like there are we think we keep things forever just in case. Like, well, no, nowadays you don't have to do that. Especially a lot of agencies have your files on file anyway at this point. You don't have to hold on to them for 20 years. I mean, it's like that. No one cares. But we're that old school way of thinking. You got to hold on to it and keep it. Because one day they may audit me from 20 years ago. Like, that's why they're not going to. Usually it's 3 to 7 years, and that's usually fine. So get rid of those papers from 20 years ago, or those old savings bond things you have, those the certificate notices. Like throw those out. Like it's papers were kept me in business for a long time because I had a lot of shredding. There's shredding places here in LA. I don't know how they are in Cincinnati. That you buy the pound, you shred. I mean, paper's a big deal.
All office supply stores, Staples, Office Depot, Office Max, all of them. If you go in there, they weigh it, and it's like $1 a pound or something like that.
But folks, it's seriously, papers are. The Sundae Basket's important. That's all you need to know. The Sundae Basket's important, and it's because it's seriously there's just so much. I mean, we have so much paper, and that's why I like that you did this. I'm like, this is such a great idea.
Come join me. Help other people get their papers organized. I want to have you.
Yes. Oh my God. Because it's so important. It's just so important. The paper's just the bane of everybody's existence. Okay. So you said you're filling up. I mean, how's that working? Can people sign up still? What's going on? How do we promote that on here?
Yes. So if you go to organize365.com under the Work With Me tab, it says Become a Licensed Sundae Basket Workshop Provider. So those classes are filling up this week, actually. You're going to want to sign up this week. But if you hear this after the fact, you can go to the same place and get on the wait list. The next class will be in October. Okay,
good. That's good to know. So, and October is only a few months away. I mean, literally, we're halfway through July. It's only
Stop.
And it's got myself. I mean, and I do, and everything. My life is my schedule because of my TV shows and radio shows. Everything's I'm always booking things my schedule. So I'm like, really? I mean, there's 5 Sundays in July, and I'm thinking, oh, it's gonna be a nice long month. And I'm like, well, it's already the 14th. I'm like, oh, okay. Don't know where all that went. I don't know where that went at all.
Well, I say that July is the Bermuda Triangle of months.
Do you really? Okay, so why
do.
Why do you say that?
Because it's hard to make money in July. You never know where July went. The sun sucks away your brain. Like,
yes.
July is always a loss. So I just don't even account for July in my calendar.
But I also want to say something about you, because congratulations, because, okay, here's the thing, folks, you don't know this, and this is for organizers or anybody out there, to get on the front page of Google is very important. That's something for marketing and reasons. You want people, they always say, more than 2 clicks, they're done. When it comes to Google searches, a lot of times after 2 pages, they're done. They can't find what they need. And if you're on the first 8 pages, that's really good. I have a hashtag on Instagram and Twitter, #JamesLaw Jr. And some of my co-hosts that I met, so they meet me, they're like, we looked you up and like, you have a hashtag. I said, well, because here's the point, I started tagging my name in everything that I did. It's like it's nothing that complicated. It's just that you generate all this Sundae Basket. The more you generate the frequency, the intensity of it, that's how you kind of generate the traffic, the business, and the presence online. So you're a great example of that. Then if you're on the first,
I'd love to say I did it on purpose, but I really didn't.
Well, still, that's good though.
I did Organize 365. I did 10 Steps to Organize Paper. Like, I was very purposeful in different SEO and things I was doing. And when I look back on it, I was like, oh my gosh, the Sundae Basket was there the whole time, but it was so close to me, and I used it so much, and I'd been using it for 15 years, I didn't realize what it was.
Interesting.
And now I'm like, oh, I'm glad I did it that way.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Okay. Well, then you're a great example of just doing your life and kind of and it happens. I mean, it's like we're not telling you anything. Again, especially like you said, I have professional organizers who listen to this podcast and radio show and regular folk too. This is not just we're not just holding on to the secrets. We're telling you this is all doable. This is for everyone. This is all this stuff is doable and. We're all, and Lisa and I both have the same mission of wanting to help affect change in the world, one person at a time, just through time management, which we're not really managing time, but just life management and organization. I mean, things do run better and smoother.
Yes.
It really. I mean, we're not joking. It really does. And I'm proud of you also, all the things that you're doing. It's again, we're showing folks that life doesn't end at 30. It doesn't end at 25.
Right.
It doesn't end at 40. It's like it's in some ways, like you said, it's beginning, and actually we're more equipped to handle it because we have the life experience behind us. That actually helps out a lot. I think it does. I think it helps you and I out a lot. I was on
a podcast the other day, and I said, "Don't worry, baby boomers. 70 is the new 40."
Yeah.
Because once you know how awesome 40 is, like you like 40.
And you do it. I see. I'm getting close to 50, and I love it. I've
heard 50 is better.
I heard this too, and I'm seeing people who are above me at that age, and they look great, and they're doing amazing things, and.
You're in California.
Well, yeah, I'm in California. Of course, it does help a little bit. Come on.
In the Midwest,
Yeah, it's a little different. I love my Midwest. I was telling you before the show. I love my Midwest. I'll always love them. But just in many ways, though, people are really coming into their own. They're finding who they are, and somebody told me that it takes a long time to find who you are truly. That makes sense to me now. As I'm older, it makes sense to me. Okay, now I get it. I do get it that. You are the sum of your life experiences, and actually everything that you've done, Lisa Kelly, up to this point, and I've done up to this point, has led to what we're doing today. And it informs what we do. It informs how we do what we do. So I completely okay, now I get it. I say, okay, I get it. I mean,
so I'll just leave you on this one thing.
Yes.
It's just totally random.
I love it.
So I was listening back to some of my very first podcast episodes because I was editing them. And those are 3 years old, right? And
yes.
So I'm listening to myself from 3 years ago say things that this summer I was like, oh, that's a new revelation. This is what I always talk about. So I'm listening to myself from 3 years ago going, I was saying the same thing. like we don't, like we even have revelations about our own stuff.
We do. We know we do.
Don't realize that we're saying.
No, we do. That's very true. And it's like, I mean, because again, we're our own teachers also. I mean, that's the thing I tell people all the time. And we are, plus I love what we do. I love this industry. I know you too. I love this industry so very much. And people look at me like I'm crazy sometimes. Like, really? Like, I do. I love this industry of organization and time management, productivity, whatever words you want to use. I love this business, and no matter what I do, no matter where I go and what I do, I will always have a hand in this business somehow. Whether it's media, speaking, because now I'm being a guest on shows too, and I did a guest spot as an organizer on a podcast called It's Complicated, a video podcast. And someone from my TV world saw that podcast and said, "I saw you, James, and your 7 tips to figure out if I was a hoarder." I was 5 of those. I was like, "Oh my god!" And it was so funny. I'm like, "Oh my god!" Because I'm learning that whole thing of going myself. Being a guest is hard. I'm used to being in charge, so being a guest is different.
It's awesome.
It's fun.
So much fun.
And so I'm learning that. But that's the whole thing is that I love this business so much that I will continue doing this as long as I can. And people like you inspire me also. It's like this. You guys are doing good work, and you're doing solid work, and you're doing work that's helpful, that's positive, and you're also thinking outside the box. And I like that you're creating stuff. You're creating stuff for yourself. Your professional organizers think tank. You folks, people on Facebook, it's a large group, and to me, it's even larger than some of the other organizing groups. I think it's the largest one online. I think it is at this point. So I'm telling you people, and I love going to that website. I love going to that page. I love seeing people talking about. People are asking valid questions. They're sharing knowledge. It's called Professional Organizers Think Tank. Just go on Facebook, and and also I have it on my pages too. I have it on my pages. You can click the links there. But it's just such a great thing that Lisa thought up and kind of ended Sundae Basket and it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff.
Thank
girl.
you.
So the book is called How ADHD Affects Home Organization, Understanding the Role of 8 Key Executive Functions of the Mind. You get on Amazon, and it says it's a cute book. You can listen to it on Audible, you get a Kindle version if you want to use your Kindle. I like books in my hand, so it's a nice book to have in your hand. It's nice, it feels good, it looks nice. I say grab it, put it in your purse, and go about your business and read it.
Thank you.
Now, so you can also find Lisa at organize365.com, Professional Organizers Think Tank. She's all over the place. She's everywhere. She's like me. We're everywhere in this industry. You cannot avoid us. We are everywhere.
Yeah. I'm organized 365 on all social media.
Yes,
so.
she is. Perfect. Thank you, Lisa, for being on the show.
Thank you.
And of course, you're always welcome to come back. Always. You're always welcome to come back.
Well, you said I might not have been on the most, so I'm going to have to come back again.
Well, I'm going to see it, because seriously, I have to look and see how many.
I'm a tad competitive.
Well, me too, girl. So, but my thing is, I have to go look and see how many episodes I've done so far, because I've been on the air 2.5 years now. So I haven't really seen how many I've done. I know a long time, and you're one of my first people that came on. So I don't know how many I've done. So I have to actually look and see. Because somebody said, "How many have you done?" I'm like, I don't know. Good question. But then once I look through, I'll see it's between you, I think, and Julie Ummer, who I love. Julie Ummer. She's been on the show. I think she's been on the show 3 times.
I know this is my 3rd time.
No, is this your 4th time? I think it's your 4th time now.
Maybe it could be.
I think it is your 4th. I think it's your 4th. That's what I'm saying. I gotta really look back. I gotta look back. Look at you. I think it's your 4th. Actually,
I think I should just be, every 6 months I should come on.
That's not. I was gonna say about every 3 or 4 months you should come on. Just come on every quarter. Every quarter.
I'm in.
That's done. We're done. Everybody heard it first. Every quarter you come on. We always got plenty to talk about, so we'll work that out.
We do.
So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will talk soon, of course.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. Take care. And that was Lisa Kelly Woodruff, and she is just so wonderful. And you can follow, again, organize365.com, Organize365 on all social media platforms. Lisa Kelly Woodruff is her name. The books are good. It's so great. So thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you guys.